It was 225 years ago. President George Washington chose the site for the new capital city. 10 miles square, it stretched from the highest point of navigation on the Potomac River and encompassed the ports of Georgetown and Alexandria. Ever since, Washington has been a city of national drama and contradictions. And here to tell us about that, author and historian Tom Lewis. He has written a new book entitled Washington, A History of Our National City, and it paints a sweeping portrait of the life and history of the capital. Good to have you here, Tom, first of all.
Good to be here. Thank you.
I asked you earlier, why write this history? And you said this is something that's been kind of a life's work for you. You came in, you came here when you were 6 and caught up in the city.
My parents used to drive from Philadelphia to Virginia to see relatives, and I stood up in the back of a 1946 Studebaker on the way, and we'd come down New York Avenue, and I was smitten right away, and I've been in love ever since.
It's still pretty hard not to be impressed by this whole city, but it's interesting, too, what you bring up here, because what we know as Washington today was just part of the original city that Mr. Washington saw from his estate just down the river a little bit.
Yes, well, of course, there was retrocession in 1848, and that was a great blow for actually Washington. It was partly because the slave markets were in Alexandria, and they were an enormous embarrassment even then to the Congress. And so they took the disastrous move to simply retrocede the territory that Washington had captured for the district.
It was quite a leap of faith when President Washington said, well, you know, first we're in New York, then we're in Philadelphia for a while, but I've got this idea that maybe we should come down the coast a little bit, because Washington around 1790s, 1800 was not much of a place, was it?
It wasn't. It was tobacco farmland and forest for the most part. But what's interesting is Washington's vision. He had a great vision. At the same time that Thomas Jefferson proposed to Washington a small city, town of 1,200 acres, he chose Peter L'Enfant to design the great capital that we know. And it was a capital that looked west to beyond the Alleghenies. And that was important because Washington saw the future of the land in the west.
And L'Enfant designed this city en grande, as it was described. Pierre L'Enfant, though, didn't anticipate cars and buses and things like that. But nevertheless, to me, the story of Washington is its ability to adapt over those 225 years.
I think so. Even though in the 19th century they forgot Peter L'Enfant's plans, and which were recovered thankfully in 1900. But nevertheless, the city hewed to the original plan, at least in outline. And that was to all of our benefit today. And if I can say our benefit, even though I don't live in the town of Washington, Washington is a city that belongs to every American, and every American, I'm preaching now, should treat it that way, and not treat it as a stepchild of the democracy as we so often do.
It comes to symbolize in the minds of many all that's wrong with what's going on in the country, and usually that's when you don't come to this city and sort of sit here and look at all the marble monuments and the place, I think.
You're right, and live in its neighborhoods and walk its neighborhoods, which show that it's a vibrant, wonderful city. Unfortunately, most of our legislators know that the fastest way and the easiest way to get to Washington is to tell prospective constituents that they loathe it. And that's a great shame.
And it does, in fact, work. The name of the book is Washington, A History of Our National City. Tom Lewis, its author. Good to have you here. Thank you so much.
Good to be here. Thank you.